For those of you that are new here, we're a family that bought 140 acres off the grid in Australia about a year ago. My name is Tina, and if you've been watching our previous videos, you would have seen that we've had 10 teenagers camping on our off-grid property, and today is the day where we're going to be teaching them how to shoot. Guns were always against everything I ever believed in, and now I can see some reasons why guns need to be in existence. But when I was in university in 1996, the worst massacre in modern Australia was committed by a single person. It was the Port Arthur Massacre, and there was a mass shooting in which 35 people were killed and 20 others were wounded in Port Arthur in Tasmania. Martin Bryant was the person that pleaded guilty for the murders, and Martin had a lot of personal and emotional issues. He was given 35 life sentences without the possibility of parole. Since that incident, fundamental changes of gun laws within Australia happened straight afterwards. And it's very similar to what's currently happening in New Zealand. After the Port Arthur Massacre, the Prime Minister of Australia, John Howard at the time, led the development of the strictest gun laws within Australia that we've ever seen. And we've never had a mass shooting event ever like this again. Incident was so tragic and shocking for the Australian people that the political effects were significant and long-lasting. Basically now it's very difficult to obtain a gun license, and you need to have a really good reason for why you want it, or at least the patience of getting it. You need to be an upstanding citizen within the community as well. Gun shops are not all over and available everywhere like they are in other countries, and people generally don't ever see a gun in their lifetime in Australia, unless they live out in the country or on a farm. So for basically 26 years, Australia's never had a mass shooting again. And, it can be so easily fixed. And you see America, you see on the news that almost every week there's a mass shooting where children are dying and parents are afraid to send their kids to school. I just don't know how people can continue to live in that kind of environment. So one of the reasons why I see that guns are a necessity in places like farms and in country areas is when animals have been injured so badly and they're suffering and they won't be able to survive. Being able to quickly put them out of their misery is something I think is important, especially having seen our little puppy Coco die from eating poison about 6 months ago as well. Sometimes it's better to take animals swiftly if they're suffering and in pain. And the other only real reason that I see is when people are hunting and they're killing animals for food. And I know that some people are vegetarians and vegans who don't agree with that, and that's totally fine. But for people who do eat meat, I think they've lost touch with the actual process of an animal dying to feed them meat, and so they don't appreciate the fact that they're eating meat. So when you go to a supermarket and you don't have to see that this bit of meat was an animal, and it's all cleanly wrapped and there's no blood and guts, and there's no emotional impact of having that animal die for your food. I think the connection between what we eat and what has to happen for that to occur makes us appreciate every single bit of meat a lot more, and also the entire animal is used, not wasted. Whereas in those commercial food industries, they're wasting a lot of meat as well. My grandparents had a little farm and they used to raise their own animals and slaughter them, and they used to eat them. But on a lighter note, at least we're training the younger generation here in case of a zombie apocalypse. Most of these teenagers would have never even seen or touched a gun before in their life. I grew up in the country or in a country town, and I really didn't even see or touch a gun or experience being around guns until I was probably in my 20s. One of my best friends that I grew up with lived out on a farm, and he was the first person I saw just grab a gun out of the cupboard and use it. So a couple of these guys have got a great eye and got the target quite a few times, and I think Paul now has his eye on them for being hunting partners. Let us know if you're interested in seeing a hunting video. Oh, and I probably should also mention that I think that, law enforcement officers having access to guns is also a necessity. I was glad to see that one of the girls in the group was also keen to learn how to use the guns and how to shoot. I think it's a skill that is often just given to males to learn. My sister and my niece had a go of learning how to shoot about 6 months ago out here on our property as well. I don't know if you can see the white target on the tree that they're going for in the background there, but it was a metal plate that was attached to the tree, but after we went and checked it and took the plate down, we saw that the tree had actually been shot. So that's probably not something that we'll do again. We'll need to set up the target in a way that's not going to affect any of our living trees that are out there. So these guys were given a safety briefing before they started shooting, which included instructions of what to do and what not to do, including treating the gun as if it's loaded at all times, even when they know it's not loaded. Generally speaking, I think this opportunity was a bit of a learning experience for all of them, and they were making memories together, and it's probably something that some of them have never done before and may never do again. So it's something they'll probably remember for the rest of their lives. I remember when I was 16 years old and going camping with my friends and getting up to mischief and doing things that we weren't supposed to do. It was one of the best times of my life. And in this group of teenagers, we have some of the guys have a Chinese background, an American background, and one of them's from England as well. So we've got a bit of a mixture of people from different cultures. About a third of people in Australia are actually were born overseas or have a parent that was from overseas. And that's quite a big percentage, really. And after the Port Arthur massacre, the government ended up buying back all the handguns from people who were handing them in. It ended up in the removal of almost 650,000 firearms. And they did it again back in 2003, and it ended up in the surrender of 68,000 handguns nationally. They did it again in 2009, and all the surrendered firearms were destroyed. Also in 2017, 51,000 unregistered firearms were surrendered during a 3-month amnesty, which was fantastic, and no questions were asked about these illegal guns. Not only did the strict gun laws change the amount of mass shootings that happened in Australia, but they also changed gun suicide and armed crime as well. So apparently in 2015 there was some research performed with Australian people, and 6% of Australians thought that the gun laws were too strong. 40% thought that the gun laws were about right, and 45% thought that the gun laws were not strong enough. So for those people in other countries, in Australia, a person must have a firearm licence to possess or use a firearm. They must demonstrate a genuine reason for needing a firearm, which does not include self-defence. And they must not be a person that has broken the law in other areas even. And all firearms must be registered by a serial number to the owner, who must also hold a firearms licence, and the police in the person's local area will regularly go and check to see how they're storing their firearms. The Australian Constitution doesn't have anything in it about the right to bear arms. In Australia, having a gun is regarded as a privilege, not a right. And public safety is considered more important. Paul is actually a range officer at one of our local shooting clubs, and they're mainly concerned with protecting the viability of hunting, collecting and target shooting sports. There are a lot of political issues and controversy involved in what they think and how they're interacting with politicians and the people, but I'm not going to get into that right now. So besides learning how to use a gun, I'll give you some more tips on how to survive a zombie apocalypse, things that I've learned from The Walking Dead, just for your own entertainment. The first tip is to get prepared with a stocked cellar and get yourself some off-grid water and energy systems. And always have a 24/7 lookout. It's very important to make sure that you know who's coming. Zombies can arrive night or day. If you can't put up a fence around your property, then you need to get some string and some tin cans so that you can hear them coming. Don't lock up any zombies in your shed or barn. They're not going to get better. Just lay low and try to stay safe for as long as possible. Keep away from any humans that might also be a threat. Grow your own food and live a sustainable life. Easy. But no, in all seriousness, zombies don't like the sound of guns. It attracts them actually, so guns are probably not really going to be that helpful anyway. So the next project for Chimney Creek Farm is for us to see if we can get the old well going. We've got the motor now and Paul's fixed it up a bit, so we're hoping that it's going to be able to pump some water out for us. And then the next major thing is our toilet and bathroom setup, so I'm really looking forward to that. We're going to need to get some insulation, and we're also going to need to build some walls into the shed. So we've got lots of things to do, but not enough money to do everything all at once. So we'll have to save and do little bit by little bit. So it looks like we're going to use Daryl White from Daryl White Services, who builds tiny homes, to do our bathroom. So we're just looking at design ideas and things like that at this time. If you have any ideas for off-grid toilets and bathrooms, let us know in the comments below. This video is not like any of my other videos really. I normally like to focus on nature and the world around us when I'm making my videos, and I like to focus on our peaceful and calming activities that bring us joy. But I also like to show all the hard work and the good and bad and all sides of us living off the grid. If there's anything in particular that you would like me to talk about or cover about us living off the grid, or if you have any ideas or suggestions, that would be great as well. Let me know in the comments below. And as you can see, up the hill and slightly to the left, all of Richard's sheep are still alive. Thank you for everyone that's watching and joining and sharing our journey with us. We really do appreciate it. And I'll chat to you next time.